Okay, so for today's invited folks, we have Serge Stinc. He is head of research at United Nations University Institute in Macau. Before that, he was associate professor at the University of Normandy in France, and a researcher at UMNISCO, International Joint Research Unit of ION. So today, he's going to talk about the dark side of ChatGPT and how it's not sustainable. So please welcome Serge.
Hello everyone, so good afternoon. So I hope that you can hear me very well. Maybe raise your hand if you can hear me. Okay, perfect. And I will try to present my presentation. You see my screen, the screen with my presentation? Is it okay?
Just a second, yeah.
You see it?
Yeah, now we can see your screen.
Okay, nice, perfect. So I will start my presentation. So thank you again for this invitation. So it's a great pleasure to be online with you. We are in the same time zone, but I'm a little bit more in the south compared to you. So I'm in Macau. So Macau is just in front of in Hong Kong in China. So today I want to present some of the something that maybe is less technical than the presentation that you have until now. So, but it's maybe something very different. But I think this is something interesting to discuss also about the fact that these new AI systems like ChatGPT, these large language models, are completely unsustainable. So I will discuss with you about that in a few minutes. So my name is Serge Stinc. I'm the head of research at the United Nations University in Macau.
We don't see your slides here.
We don't see the slides.
Yeah, we see the browser.
Okay.
I think you shared the wrong display, maybe.
No, I share the my full screen. I don't know how to share the share screen. And when I try to share the screen, yeah. Do you see my presentation now?
Not yet. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it sharing?
Yeah. Not yet. Doesn't work.
Yeah, we don't see the screen yet.
Yeah, I had this problem previously with the. I don't know how to solve it. Maybe because I used Firefox and not Google Chrome or something like that. Yeah, so I have the same issue previously on with Google Meet. With Google Meet, I was able to share my browser, but not my whole screen. In fact, I don't know why, but.
Okay, so you clicked on the present and chose the.
Yeah. I choose the present. I choose share screen, and after that, I select the window, but doesn't work. Yeah, the browser can't access your screen. I don't know. Maybe something like your.
Do you have a browser? Yeah.
Maybe it's just a matter of. Let me try to see if I can. Firefox. Where is Firefox? Yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah, it's camera. Yeah, I don't know. It's a bit. Maybe I can
close your browser and join again. Maybe that will fix it.
Yeah, what I can try to do is to upload the file now. I can upload the files.
Don't worry, we're gonna wait for you. So maybe try switching your browser or something like that.
Yeah, sure. Sorry about the.
Don't worry,
Let me check if I can browse my, if I can upload my presentation directly in the system. It's a bit annoying, this kind of things. Yeah. Ah, yes, uploading. Yeah. So I'm uploading the presentation inside the StreamYard. So I guess this will work better. Yeah. Sorry, I never used these tools before. Okay. Now, is it working? Uploading. Takes a lot of time. Yeah. Okay, so okay, nice. So I upload the presentation, so it should work better. Just have to put the presentation full screen for me. So sorry about that. Yeah, so now it's maybe much better. So just to repeat a little bit what I started to say previously. So my name is Serge Stinc. I'm the head of research at the United Nations University Institute in Macau. So Macau is a little bit far in the south compared to you. We are in the same time zone. So today I will speak about the dark side of large language models and why ChatGPT is mainly unsustainable. So you know, I guess, about this 17 United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So this is the goal that we are supposed to achieve before 2030. And if you are part of the United Nations like me, you know that this is very important, and that we are far. In fact, we are far from achieving these goals. I see recently that, in fact, we only at the moment achieved 12% of these goals. And when you consider digital technologies and especially artificial intelligence, there is a lot of impact of these technologies on the Sustainable Development Goals. And my institute is working on that. So we are not doing theoretical research, we are doing policy relevant research. And we are trying to think about the impact of these digital technologies on the world, on the society. And we are also trying to see if digital technologies can help us to understand and achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. I'm working in a multidisciplinary research team. I'm a computer scientist, but inside my team, there are other people in other disciplines, because this is also very important to address the challenges of digital technologies and the challenges of the sustainability from multiple perspectives. So we are people working on computer science, education technology, psychology, public health, etc., to try to address all these problems in different angles. So you see also on this slide the very nice building where we are located in Macau. So I will start with this very funny cartoon. Maybe you have seen this cartoon online. It's a cartoon that was published in 1923. So it's a cartoonist named Webster, and this guy drew a very nice cartoon about what will be the world in 2023. And in fact, he is not that far from the actual world. And what you see here, it's a guy who wants to draw cartoons automatically. And he is using basically what we call today generative models. So if you see on the top, he's using something like called an ID's Dynamo. So it's something like a language models today. And is using also something to draw the cartoons. So it's called generative models, image-based generative models like Stable Diffusion or Midjourney. So something like 100 years ago, someone already think about this idea that maybe in the future we'll be able to have technologies like technologies that we have today. So ChatGPT. So I guess you know a lot about this kind of technology. So I will not spend too much time to explain that. Basically, it's a chatbot. So chatbot is a technology to mimic the human conversation. And it's a new generation of chatbot that was introduced in November 2022 by an American company called OpenAI, and it has been very trendy since that time, and it's built on top of a large language models called GPT, and GPT 3.5 and GPT 4 now. And this is using different kinds of machine learning techniques, but I will not enter into much detail in this presentation. So chatbots are not something new, because it started in 1966 by a guy called Joseph Eisenmein, so a researcher from MIT. And this guy had this nice idea of trying to build a small program that mimic a psychotherapist. And it was working quite well already at that time. So it was quite surprising for this guy, because this program was very, very simple. It just repeats what the user say in front of the machine. So compared to ChatGPT, it's very, very simple, but it was already surprising that the users, they were thinking that this machine was human, in fact. So it's very interesting to see that even if the technology was limited at that time, it was already working quite well. So what is a large language model? I will not say that much, you know about that, I guess. It's basically something to predict words. When you have a sentence, you try to predict most all words following a series of words based on them. And there are lots of applications. You can use them to do auto-completion. If you have a phone, for example, it's not a large language model, but this is something like that. It's something that predicts the words that will happen next. You can use it for machine translation. You can use it to build chatbots. So basically, this is working like that. You scrap the web. You try to build a corpus with lots of sentences, and you try to predict the next word. So, for example, here, the students open their books, their laptops, their exams. So you can put some numbers in front, so probabilities, and you can generate like that sentences and conversations between humans and a machine. So it's completely probabilistic. There is not that much, I would say, intelligence behind this kind of tool. So what is a large language model? It's very simple also. It's basically a very big large language model. So it's a system that the people have trained on an extensive corpus. And you can, in fact, measure the performance and the sophistication of such tool, such a model, by the number of parameters that you can use to generate it. So a model's parameter is basically the number of factors that you consider when you generate the input of this large language model. So if we look at these numbers for ChatGPT, so the size of the corpus is very big. It's 45 terabytes of text. So it's very big corpus, basically coming from the internet. And the number of parameters is also very impressive. So 175 billions of parameters. So it's not something that you can train on your computer. So this is why you need large infrastructures to train this kind of model until now. So now I will focus my presentation on the risk. And I want to convince you a little bit that we have to think about the risk when we are using this kind of system. So there are lots of risks. So, and I will not have time to consider all these risks, but I want to skim a little bit on some of this risk right now. So risk for the employment and for the job market, because basically large language models and generative AI will replace lots of jobs in the creative industries. So people who are considered as knowledge workers, like journalists, software developers, and even academics like me, might be strengthened by this kind of things. Education also, and some universities already, I think in US, they already blocked or tried to block access to ChatGPT because the students are using this system to cheat during their exam. So, but it's almost impossible to block such a systems. You have also a problem linked to compliance. So if you are companies or if you are a bank and if you are using ChatGPT, Maybe you will give some private information during the conversation, and this is a risk of breaching some data, so you have to be aware about that. And I will focus now on three different, and I will give some examples about three examples about the risk, the major risk that we can consider with ChatGPT. And I will also tell you that these risks are linked to the Sustainable Development Goals, in fact. So the first one is about the fact that with ChatGPT, you have the ability to generate very easily plausible misinformation. So information that looks like real information, but completely fake. And so this can be potentially affect lots of people and be a threat for the democracy, for example. Another impact is the impact on the environment. So if you want to train such large language models, you need a very big computer infrastructure. So you need to train the system on a grid of computers, and you will emit lots of greenhouse gas, and this might be also a threat for the environment. And finally, I will give you some example related to the fact that we don't know exactly how the data that was used for what kind of data was used for ChatGPT. And this is a kind of black box, and this is also a very important issue about transparency. So let's start with the first one, and I will give you in fact an example coming from China, because in fact the first incident that happens with ChatGPT in 2023, so in February at the beginning of this year, was reported, and it was reported in fact inside a database. There is a database called IIIC, AI Algorithm and Automations Incidents and Controversies. So it's a very interesting database because you can in fact add information if you have any issues with one algorithm. For example, you can add very easily information inside this database, and this database collect all the incidents that the people might have with AI system. And what was this incident? In fact, in February 2023, one resident from the city of Guangzhou used ChatGPT to generate some misinformation, and the misinformation was that the city government was lifting some driving restrictions linked to the number plates that you put on the cars. And this guy said that there will be no more restriction for these number plates starting from March 1st. And this announcement became viral on the Chinese social platform. And yeah, so it was very trendy. It has been very trendy inside the Chinese community. So it's one of the first incidents of using ChatGPT in the world. And what was very strange about this incident is that, and this was reported by one of the OpenAI guy, is that ChatGPT was not supposed to understand and speak Chinese because it has been trained only on English documents. So it was quite strange, even for the people of OpenAI. So probably it's data curation problems. It means that maybe when the ChatGPT was trained on a large number of text, there was some text in Chinese and in other language, because people discover after that the ChatGPT can speak in lots of various languages. I don't know about the language in Mongolia. I guess maybe you can also speak your language. And so we still don't understand clearly why ChatGPT is able to generalize to other language. So it's something a bit intriguing until now. Another example of the misinformation that can be relayed by this kind of systems is an incident also. It's a second incident, in fact, a report on the same database on ChatGPT. It's about a company, a German company, who is providing a geocoding API. So geocoding API is basically something like that. You provide a name of the place, and you have the position on the map, or you can do also the reverse. So what happens? In fact, after the launch of ChatGPT, the people of this company, they start to see more and more people signing up on the service, and these people express their disappointment. And why? Because they didn't know that this company was working on geocoding services, but they were thinking that this company were a reverse phone number lookup. So it's completely wrong. And in fact, this is ChatGPT who says that this company was providing this kind of services. And the CEO of this company believed that the problems was coming from the fact that ChatGPT maybe used some YouTube tutorials where some people describe the case of the company as providing this kind of service, this kind of phone lookup service. So you see that large language models, because this is based on the contents of the internet, basically, or including YouTube tutorials, it's very easily, this kind of system can very easily generate some misinformation, including misinformation about services provided by a company. So I switched to another very important aspect of this kind of systems, and this is not something new. It's also a case for previous system based on deep learning. So in 2017, maybe you have heard about this lady, Timnit Gebru. So she published with some other co-authors a very well-known papers. This paper is on the dangers of stochastic parrots. Can language models be too big? And she was the first to identify this language model as very important and very, they might damage the environment. It was in 2017, if I remember correctly. And after that, 2020. After that, this lady was fired from Google because, in fact, Google was not really happy about this paper. Apparently, there was a big fight after the publication of this paper. So you see that the impact on the environment was always even in 2020. So before ChatGPT was becoming a trend. And if you compare the size, at the beginning of the presentation, I talk about the number of parameters and the size of this this large language models. So you see here, between 2019 and 2021, the increase in terms of the number of parameters. So you see that the parameters increased by something like 1,000, 10,000. And the data set also used for training this kind of system increased a lot. So, and if you look at the greenhouse gas emission of these large language models, so this is also very interesting. First of all, it's very difficult to know exactly what is the production of this in terms of greenhouse gas emission of these large language models, because these systems are produced by companies, tech companies, and they don't want to publicize these numbers. So this is only estimation of these numbers, and you also have to consider that when you train a large language model, when you train an AI system, it's not exactly the same cost of when you are running. So I'm just talking about the cost of training these kind of systems. So the first one I want to consider is the one large language models that was invented by Google in 2019. There was in this model 300 millions of parameters. It was trained on a GPU, and in fact, the amount of greenhouse gas emission was equivalent to a flight between, I would say, New York and London. So, sorry, trans-American flight. So between New York and Los Angeles, for example, something like that. So it was almost cost in terms of emissions of this flight. If you consider after that a more recent model like DLUB, for example, DLUB is the open source large language model produced by a company called Hugging Face in 2022. It was something like 5 tons of carbon dioxide emissions, so roughly equivalent to 30 flights between London and New York. You see, much more expensive in terms of the production of gas. But this last model was trained in France, on a supercomputer in France, and you know maybe that in France the electricity is mostly produced by using nuclear energy. So the impact on the environment was not that big, in fact, compared to other trainings. And finally, GPT-3. So during the training, it has been used 500 tons of carbon dioxide emissions, so something like 600 flights. So you see a lot of a great impact on the potentially on the environment. But there are some ongoing research to reduce the size of these large language models, and maybe you have seen recently that the people are able to run small large language models on their computers now, and there have been lots of research to reduce the size and the economic cost of these models. But even if the size, the impact of these large language models are reduced in the future, because more and more people will use these models, basically, the impact will also be important. So this is something very important to consider, especially if you are interested and if you are looking at all this from the climate action, how we can try to solve the climate change in the future. This is also something to consider. Finally, I want to discuss it a bit with you about also the fact that this large language model, another issue is about the fact that there are not that much information this system has been trained. So you know that in order to train a system, and if you want to do an efficient training, you need to label your data sets, in fact. And the only way to label a data set is to use humans. So large language models like GPT-3 and GPT-4 has been trained on hundreds of millions of words that have been scrapped from the internet. And you know also that the internet is full of, there is lots of interesting things for sure, and nice things on the internet, but there are also lots of toxic, lots of bias. So you need to purge a little bit. You need to curate the training data if you want to use it inside your system. So a solution is to train your AI system on label. You have to provide examples are labeled with. You can say that, okay, this sentence is about hate or sexual abuse. So you need to train your system in order to remove as much as possible such information. And so you need humans to basically to do that, because only humans know about this kind of things, about hate and violence. And in fact, when OpenAI released ChatGPT, there was not that much information about that. We didn't know that much how the system is curated. Only in late 2022, some journalists from the Time magazine discovered that in order to get those levels, OpenAI, in fact, asked a company located in Kenya. So this company is called Sama, and they asked this company to label sentences. So this company asked their employees and label between 150 and 250 passages of text per shift, so 9-hour shift. So lots of words in this shift, and have to say if the sentences have any hate or misinformation or violence inside. So they have to do that, and in fact, the employees have lots of mental issues because it's tricky to read all the day. You imagine reading this kind of text, this violence and hate messages during 9 hours. It's it might be very difficult in the long term. So they have mental issues, And apparently they attend some sessions provided by the companies, some sessions with counselors, but these sessions were unhelpful and too rare to because they were completely exhausted by the kind of work they are doing during this labeling work. So the work was traumatic for these people. And in fact, in later 8 months after the OpenAI asked this company to do this work, that Sama canceled all these activities with OpenAI. So you see that, and OpenAI was not really open about that. They didn't explain how they curated data from the beginning. So only the journalist has been able to discover that after a few months. So now I want to move a little bit to what we are doing inside our institute. So you have seen all these examples, all these problems, issues that might affect the sustainable development goals. So inside my institute, we are trying to evaluate all this impact. So we have done some studies recently. So I just want to share with you 2 studies that we have done. And you can download, if you're interested, you can download the reports. So the first one is that it's a policy brief that we released at the beginning of the year in partnership with the Asian Institute of Technologies and Monash University in Malaysia. So it's a study on what kind of impact AI might have on gender issues, on women, basically. So, and we have done this work on 5 different countries: Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, and Philippines. And more recently, we have done another work on also AI and women, so more focus on the peace and security agenda in Southeast Asia. So a little bit the same that the first one. We try to see what are the risks of AI, of artificial intelligence, in conflict and peace building context. And because lots of this system can be used to generate misinformation, and we have done some kind of social media analysis in order to understand the impact on gender issues. And 1 month ago, we also start to do some kinds of assessment of the AI landscape in Mongolia. So with the help of the UNESCO, we have started work to try to understand the ecosystem in Mongolia about AI and try to develop an AI standards framework and policies at the national level for Mongolia. So if you're interested by this work, we are also looking for your voices. So if you are working on AI, and if you are working at the university, or if you are policymakers, or if you are from the private sector, please send me an email after this presentation, and we'll be very happy to hear your voice to make this assessment of the AI landscape. So don't hesitate to send me a message after this presentation. Another work that we are currently doing is that, and this is also related to artificial intelligence, we are working with stakeholders in order to improve collective intelligence. So sometimes, in order to solve problems, you need to put people together. And we have started recently a project in Vietnam and also in 2 other countries, in Brazil and Kenya, in order to understand the next, in order to prevent the next pandemic. So the idea is to think about how the people in communities and hospital facilities, they can cooperate in order to manage resources as much as possible. So we have been doing some workshop to understand the needs and how the people in the last pandemic, during the COVID-19 pandemic, they have been cooperating with people in hospital, and we have been doing a simulation about that, and we are considering now using large language models in order to build a more elaborate simulation. We are trying to combine simulation and also large language models together in order to provide a more accurate insight for the policymakers. So this is some of the work that we are doing. So we are doing lots of activities around AI and understanding the impact of AI. So and we are also developing our team. So if you are working if you are interested, we are also hiring people. So if you are interested, you can have a look to our website. Yeah, so this is our website, Macau, and some of our social media accounts. So thank you very much for this for listening to my presentation. It was maybe less technical than previous presentation, but I was more interested to discuss with you about the impact of all these very nice tools. So there are also lots of benefits of using AI systems, but you have also to think about the negative impact. You have to think about all this impact before using them. So thank you very much. And if you have any question, I will be happy to answer your questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the great talk. It's really important to think about the dark side as well. So, yeah, I think we can do a little bit of question answering. Is there any questions about dark side? The impact. So, I was wondering. You mentioned several, problems. In your mind, which one is the most important problem that we have to focus? I mean, all of them are important, but I think some of them might be technical problem. Some of them might be really a problem that that's hard to tackle.
I think the most problematic problems at the moment, issue at the moment, is maybe about disinformation, because it might impact a lot the society around the world. So there are issues like environmental issues that probably we can solve, because maybe we can find solutions to reduce the size of the models, to being able to use less energy. So it's maybe less an issue, but for misinformation, especially when you are producing with all these nice images that looks like real images, it might produce lots of impact on the world. And I know that, for example, this kind of systems has been used already in some conflicts in Africa or in Southeast Asia, and we might see more and more of these fake images. And for people like us, like you, I guess we have this knowledge. We know that this kind of system can produce fake images. But for people who are not familiar with this kind of technologies, they might see these images as completely true. So it's a real problem here.
Yeah, I think that's a big problem, because as the model gets better, the problems are gonna get bigger as well, right? So what if the half of the internet is fake at some point? It's gonna be really difficult to separate truth from fake. Is there any questions? Okay.
Hi, Serge. This is Xinzun. I'm a research scientist at Google. So I'm totally familiar with the problem that you are talking about. And I think it's important for us to stop and think about where we are, At the same time, we're also excited, right? So we are excited about the opportunities that current AI tool brings us. But at the same time,
me too.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And having that said, so I got a couple of questions. So the first one is, right, so from sustainability perspective, I agree that current large language models are quite like resource intensive, which requires lots of energy. So say like we go, proceed like this. So, models start getting bigger and bigger, and say we go like this, and we continue for, let's say, like maybe 3 to 5 years, what happens? Like if you continue like this, at this scale, what happens after 3 to 5 years? That's the first question. And the second question, I'm quite pleased that you did some research in Mongolia. So I'm really keen to read that research.
Yeah, we just start. We just start the research.
Nice. So I think lots of the students here are also eager to collaborate with you on that. So I'm sure you're gonna see lots of emails regarding that. So yeah, quite
I hope
excited.
so. Thank you.
Yeah, quite excited about the output. So the second question is, so you see, so I just came from San Francisco a month, like 2 weeks ago so far. People there are quite excited about what this tool brings, and they are quite like eager to get use this and have like their productivity improved. Especially these developed countries, because they have lots of data, and with that they have, they can get the reward for that. So they can get the productivity, and with that they can get like this economic boom. I don't know, like GDP increase or something like that. So richer gets richer or something like that. But here in Mongolia, no, we don't have much data. We are only 3 million people contributing to internet data, and so now we are thinking like, how can we, make this tool useful for us, like a developing countries like Mongolia. So what's your take on that? How should we proceed?
Yeah.
And third question. So, sorry, I got lots of. Your talk is quite interesting, right? So third question is regarding the policy, right? So you touched a bit on the policy part.
Yeah.
So this is a technology that might be bigger than something like developing a, airplane or car. I don't know. Who knows what? But then, what's your perspective, your opinion on the policy? I can see that like European Union, for example, is taking quite conservative policy on this versus like USA, British. They are taking quite progressive versus China. I think they have their own AI agency, government agency, sort of sees everything. So what's your take on that? And what should the policy be in developing countries like Mongolia?
Yeah,
So,
sure.
Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you for the questions. Very interesting questions. So, I think the first one was about what will happen in the next 5 years, something like that. I was not sure about the first one.
Yeah, the first question was, so those large language models are getting bigger and bigger, right? Every year, every month.
Yeah.
Right? So we have
Okay. So it's about the size. Yeah.
Yeah, if it continues like this, like maybe for 3 to 5 years, then what happens in terms of like sustainability, especially in terms of the environment? So
Yeah. Sure. I understand the question now. Thank you. I will try to answer. It's difficult to predict the future, right? But as I already mentioned, I guess there are lots of people doing research industries, working that topic. So I guess the people we will find a technical solution to reduce the size and maybe use less energy. But the problem is that if everyone has larger models on his laptop, you can imagine the production of emissions. So even if we reduce by 1,000 the cost of producing emission, if everyone has this large language model somewhere in his laptop, so it will be a boom in terms of the gas emission production. So it's something very important to consider in the future. So I don't know exactly what will happen, but yeah. So for the second question about the productivity, I think and you mentioned also the fact that countries like Mongolia, there is not enough data. I think this is very important because you know that all these models are based on data. So if you have no data, it's almost impossible to produce something interesting. So I guess you have to, I don't know exactly the situation in Mongolia, but I guess you have to think about how to produce more interesting data. So trying to enforce some kinds of data policy, some data regulations, and for example, how the governments produce open access data for the common good. So this is very important to have this policy in place, so that so everyone can use this data to after that produce some services. But you are completely true. It's if there is no data, this language are completely useless, in fact. And I don't know about the Mongolian language, but I guess there is not, compared to the English, for example, or Chinese, there is maybe not that much corpus. So this is another problem also. If you want to produce large language models for your country based on your existing corpus, because your corpus is very small compared to English or other language, it's for sure you will obtain less interesting results. So it's another issue also. And finally, for the policy, in fact, this is I'm working on that because our institute is working on that, and because we are part of the UN. And I think this is very important. There are, as you mentioned, there are already policies about AI in different countries. There is a policy in Europe. There is, I think they are discussing about the policy in the US and also in China. And what is missing at the moment is global policies. So we have policies for different sets of countries. And this is what we are trying to do in the UN system, trying to come up with some global policies. And global policies that also will take care about the voices of everyone, the voices not only of from the large countries in terms of the technology like US or China, but also smaller countries like African countries or Mongolia, for example, because you have less power, your voice is not heard in this discussion. So this is very important. So this is why we are doing this assessment also. Is also to hear the voice of the people from your country in this discussion, and to try to take into account your specificities, because you have a local culture, or you have something different from other countries. So it's important also to think about that. There are these, in terms of policies, maybe you have heard about the UNESCO recommendation about AI that was voted at the end of 2021 by all the member states in the world, including Mongolia. So this is something very important, because this is a framework for ethical recommendations. So it gives you the basic principles about that we should consider when we build this kind of systems, this kind of very large language models, very important to consider. But at the same time, these are just principles, because we don't know how to operationalize this principle in software. And I guess there are lots of engineers in this room, people who write software. You have very general principle. Okay, my AI should not do that, should not harm people. But how I can implement that in my software after that? Because it's not that easy to go from very nice principle that basically everyone want to follow this principle, these nice principles about humanity, about privacy, about transparency, accountability, etc. But how I can implement them, how I can do that in my software is much more difficult. So there are still a lot of research to do, still a lot of studies to do in order to understand how to go from these principles to something that is implemented inside software.
Yeah, that's cool. Thanks, Serge. I think it's just important for us to collaborate, even for UN and the large corporations like Google or maybe Microsoft, because they're the ones who are developing this technology, and having this guide written down and then talking with the researchers there, trying to solve those issues together. I think it's important. But yeah, thanks so much for the time. It's excellent.
Thank you. Thank you.
There's a lot more questions.
Okay, we have more questions.
Okay. I have a question regarding to the environmental impact of the
Yeah.
And
speak a little bit loud, because it's difficult to understand. Yeah.
What about now?
Yeah, it's better. Thank you.
So I've recently heard about this company called Mythic that is producing and designing analog chips for training AI models. And it is currently being used in edge AI computing, but as it continues to develop, would you consider it to be feasible to train large language models such as ChatGPT on analog devices rather than digital devices?
I have no idea about the answer. Sorry about that, but I know that there are some kinds of analog computers. Since a long time, since the 50s, there are analog and digital computers. Probably this is something interesting to consider for AI systems, because most of these AI systems are based on matrices and operation that you are doing on matrices, so might be interesting to have a look, but I'm not really an expert in analog computers, so it might be difficult for me to answer. Yeah, sorry.
Okay, yeah, I think that's it. Thank you so much.
Another one.
First of all, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
First of all, sorry for my quick English, but I have one question about AI, large language models.
Yeah.
So I saw ChatGPT makes about like 175 tons of carbon dioxide. Makes carbon 175 carbon dioxide, and it makes, I think that makes global warming makes too fast. Every company makes like just Google makes Bird and ChatGPT. They all make carbon dioxide. So we make carbon dioxide for our company, and we make and now large language models make carbon dioxide. So it makes global warming so fast, and so how we fix this problem? So we need to stop AI development for a while, or we need to.
I'm not understanding that much your questions. Yeah, there was some kind of interruption in the middle.
Yeah, so it was about the carbon emission of those large models affecting the global warming. And what should we do? Should we stop the development, or should we even like develop a new technology?
Yeah. Okay, I understand. Sorry, there was some. It was difficult for me to listen. I guess this is impossible to stop technologies. So there was some when in the 50s there was some kinds of strike of teachers that was protesting against the use of pocket calculators for students. And in the 19th century, also people were against the device to weave clothes or things like that, because they were against the technology also. So since a long time, there are some people who are against the technologies, so it's very difficult to stop them. So I guess it will never happen, but I think we should be aware of the problems, because if the people are aware of the problems, they can try to think about solutions. And so this is why I have done this presentation, just to discuss a little bit with you about these problems. So I hope that in the future, when you will use large language models, when you use AI, you will think about all these problems first. And when you design your system, this will be part of your mind, in fact, when you design such systems. But yeah, it's not possible to stop them, unfortunately.
Okay. I think that's all. Yeah, I think it was really great talk, especially people who are learning those technologies, to be aware of those issues as we learn those technologies. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you. Thank you, and hope to see you maybe in Mongolia. I will maybe go in Mongolia in October or November after our study on AI. So maybe I will see some of you there. Thank you so much for the invitation. See you. Bye-bye. Enjoy your day. Enjoy your workshop.